Hello, it's Ruby, and today I'm going to be doing another Q&A sit-down reflective video. I did admittedly do one of these fairly recently, but I thought I would do a Q&A specific to social media, and specifically social media when you're introverted. It's kind of going to be a combination of questions around introversion and around content creation. Today's video is also sponsored by YouTube. Like actual YouTube, which I find utterly bizarre. I've said this so many times before, but even though I create across the social media platforms, YouTube has always been my favourite, and I'm very vocal about that too. Like, I would always consider myself somebody who creates YouTube videos as opposed to somebody who makes like Instagram content. Whilst I'm answering questions as well, because it's always nice to have something to do, I'm going to be making a bookmark. This is for my friend Noah. She sent me the most beautiful bookmark and also painted this picture of Emily Dickinson for me, which is just stunning. I'm not going to live up to this at all, and she is going to receive something which is significantly less impressive. However, I am at least going to try and return the favour. I'm also going to put on this ice pack around my neck because it's really warm, but I wanted to wear this red jacket because it's the colour of the YouTube logo. Oh my gosh, I'm so hot. I actually can't wear this. Glorious colours of YouTube, I'm so sorry. I really want to keep this on, but I can't. It's too hot. I'll put on a red headband instead. One step up from a headband, I found a red blazer. I'm going to fangirl about YouTube for a second, because if this isn't an opportunity to fangirl about YouTube, I don't know what it is. But I just love long form content, and I love the fact that you curate, like, your channel is a whole like little world of its own. I don't know, I sometimes think of it like that, which sounds really silly, I know, but I like to romanticize things. Like, you have your long form content, which is more personable and where you've kind of got more space to create something meaningful, whatever that means. However, alongside the long form content, you've also got the short form content on YouTube Shorts, which I do use on occasion, and I find it's a great way for outreach, for reaching new people. I like how through YouTube Shorts you can kind of add something to the ecosystem of your channel without having to create a whole YouTube video, because I wouldn't make a whole YouTube video about the book vending machine in Exeter, but I did create a short form video about it because it's something I want to share. It's something which I think like relates to that like little world of my channel. And maybe this is also because I've been on YouTube for 10 years now. YouTube celebrating its 20th anniversary, its 20th birthday, and my channel celebrated its 10th birthday this year. So bizarre. But I think that the way that YouTube is set up just feels much more community focused. Like, for example, live study with me's. I know I haven't done these for a while, but during lockdown I did these twice a week, where I would put on a live stream and we would just study together for a couple of hours bi-weekly, and I loved that. And actually having a chance to talk with people as they're watching, as you're watching, maybe if you joined any of those live streams, and like YouTube video premieres, which I want to do more of because every time I do it I love it. Like, it's one of my favourite things about YouTube. Yeah, I rarely do it because I don't want to overdo it. YouTube premiere is where the video like goes up and premieres for the first time, and you can't skip ahead, but you watch it in real time with everyone. And I just love being able to talk with people in the live chat as the video is airing, and it just feels so like personable. And that's the time, like in those live streams and premieres, where I feel most connected to my audience. I'm saying that as someone who, like, I've said this before, but when I started making YouTube videos I didn't have many friends at all. I had no friends at school. I think it's a way to make yourself feel less different because you're connecting with people who are very similar to you. If you're thinking about starting a YouTube channel, please just do it. Like, you really won't regret it. It's one of the best things I ever did. How do you go to so many public events without getting overwhelmed? And this is an excellent question. As someone who's introverted, I get overwhelmed in social situations, and I also need a lot of time to recover from social situations. However, because of YouTube and because of this wonderful community, I bizarrely get invited to a lot of very cool events which involve people, and people are lovely. I love people. This is a misconception about people who are introverted, that they don't actually like people and they don't like their friends and they don't like spending time with people, but genuinely that couldn't be further from the truth. I really like people and I like deep, proper conversations, but I also just need a lot of time to recover from them. So I go to these public events. I just got back from Cambridge Literary Festival over the weekend. Even though I love the events themselves, I have to be really careful about like putting time aside to recharge, like before and after. So on the way to the literary festival, for example, we drove and I just slept in the car and I was just completely silent. And when I was at the literacy summit in Oxford recently, I vlogged it and I showed that I left the event slightly early and I just went and sat in a park so that I could have some time by myself, just stop myself from feeling overwhelmed by the amount of socialising, even though I do enjoy it. But I will say that I don't always get it right, and sometimes I get it very wrong. Like over the weekend in Cambridge, I got very overwhelmed on the Saturday and I just started crying. It was so busy and I'd been speaking to so many people and and don't get me wrong, I really did enjoy it, but there was this moment in the afternoon that it just felt so kind of like socially too much and I just started crying, which shouldn't be embarrassing but was very embarrassing, especially because the loveliest girl came up to me just as I started crying and said hello. I was very embarrassed because I was crying when I met her. So Mia, thank you for being so lovely and so understanding, and it was so lovely to meet you, and I wish that I'd been able to like kind of give more of myself in that conversation. I would have loved to have chatted for longer. I'm saying that and I'm sharing the fact that that happened just to kind of demonstrate that like I don't always get it right and I'm not a paradigm of like this is the way to do it correctly, and I more just want to kind of demonstrate that like it can be hard and it can be difficult, and if you're introverted you sometimes like will make the sacrifice to go to something even though you know you're going to feel overwhelmed. I think it is difficult though, and I say no to a lot of events. Like sometimes something really cool and like exciting comes through and I'm so honoured to have been asked, but I just know that I couldn't go because I would find it too much. Like anything with lots of people. Jumping in whilst I'm editing, sorry, and excuse the very messy bun. Admittedly, it can be quite awkward when you're constantly saying no to things. Like I say no to a lot of things, including social. I think as an introvert, it's one of the best barriers to get over. I used to say yes to everything because I felt bad to say no, and I'd also gone through my teenage years never being invited to anything, so I was like, oh gosh, they want me to come, so I have to say yes. However, I've got to a point where I'm comfortable saying no to something and I'm very open with my friends and I tell them that I do get overwhelmed. It's one of the best things I've done, having that openness in friendships. I've drawn an outline for this whale. It's taken me a very long time. So next question, how do you deal with filming in public spaces as an introvert? I personally wouldn't equate that with introversion, but more kind of worrying what people are thinking of you in public. If I compare myself to kind of filming with friends who create content and are more extroverted, I think it's something that universally people tend to struggle with because it can be really awkward, like pulling out a camera, especially a big camera, and then just like holding it in front of you and talking, and it feels just so like arrogant, like you're just filming yourself and I don't know, I don't really like it. However, I think sometimes I maybe find it less awkward than other people. I'm quite used to it. I think a lot of it is practice, and I also intentionally use a very small camera. So my vlogging camera is this one. This is the one that I'll take out of the house with me, and you just flip up the screen like that, and it's also got this little prop feature so you can like prop it on any surface. It's actually so handy, and it's much less obvious that you're filming, like especially because it looks a bit like a phone, because you hold when you hold it, it looks like it's being held in portrait mode, and so I think having a small camera which feels more discreet, even if people still know you're filming, it makes you feel better about it, and then you're more likely to film. So I would say if you are like struggling with this and you're struggling with filming in public, it's about the narrative that you tell yourself. Like if you can find a way to tell yourself it's not embarrassing or people aren't looking, even if they are looking, then it doesn't matter. Like acknowledging the fact that people might be looking is kind of the worst thing that you can do. Tips for starting a channel. That is a very nice question, and quite a few people did ask that because it can feel really daunting and also quite opaque. Like it's this vague notion of like you can create, but then how do you create? What do you create? How do you get started? And content is so diverse, and there's you know, such a huge corpus of material online that it feels almost somewhat ridiculous to kind of give a one-size-fits-all and say, oh, this is how you create content. Because I think a large part of it is remembering that it's meant to be disparate, and that the joy of creating comes in the fact that the way that you create content is going to be different to the way that anyone else would create content, because you're pairing your style, your artistic vision, your way of seeing the world with your thoughts and your experience and the lessons that you've learned along the way, and all of these things that you've picked up from every single place that you've been, and that creates the story of you. You know, Sarah Cruz says in The Little Princess, everything's a story. I'm a story, you're a story, and you are a story. And I think YouTube is a way of telling that story and creating a narrative of your life. Jade has spoken about this so well on her channel. If I can, I'll try and pull out the video and link it down below, but I love the way that she talks about YouTube as a way of creating a narrative around your life, and how social media can help you to pick out the story in whatever event is happening, and help you to see that your life is a story. I say that because I think what you've got to say is important. Like, you watching this, what you've got to say is important. However, that's not to say that I sit down and film and I'm like, oh, what I've got to say is so important. And actually, it really shocks me that over 900,000 people are subscribed to me on YouTube, because we tell ourselves that our voices do not feel important. I think through creating content online and through following other creators online too, you do grow to see, and it becomes very evident that everyone does have their own voice and everyone has their own style. And I think, like, if you think of creators that you watch, like, I've got them in mind now, like my favourite creators, I can click on a video and I know it's their video even without seeing their face. Like, just from the style of their video, I know it's them. And that's because their content is an amalgamation of everything that they believe, that they've learnt, and that they appreciate. It's a very long-winded way of giving a piece of advice for starting a YouTube channel, but to trust your voice and to really lean into that voice, and the way that you see the world, you know, in a very kind of Baudelaire, painter of modern life sense. Like, I think you can share how you see the world, the things that you think are important, the things at the front of your mind, like share those on social media, share what you're interested in. Don't just be authentic, but lean into your authenticity. The other thing for creating content online is create the content that you want to watch. It's very much like that saying, you know, write the book that you want to read, like create the content you want to watch. What content isn't being created at the moment? What content aren't people producing that you want to be watching? So my first videos were study tips videos, and people weren't really posting study tips videos at the time, and so I was creating the content that people weren't creating that I wanted to watch. As somebody who was just obsessed with studying, and all I wanted to do was study, or like talk about studying, and so YouTube was a way for me to talk about studying. Use your planner to write down all of the homework tasks that you have to complete that night. Preferably, you should be doing this throughout the day, so as soon as your teacher gives you a piece, just write it down in your planner.
Next, I was tested again, and I was actually tested for 4 hours, but I didn't film all of it, as you can imagine.
People like that I know in real life just didn't want to talk about it, but then I found people online who actually wanted to talk about studying, which felt very bizarre. Also, this is how it's getting on so far. How do you vlog and edit? I will show you all of my cameras. I've got the mini Canon camera I've already shown you, and as I say, it's very, very small, very compact. It's a very useful camera, and I like that I can just slot this in my handbag. I've also got a GoPro. I don't really like the GoPro as much. I used to use this a lot, but the time-lapse feature on the new one isn't very good. And then I've got the Canon Mark II. It's a really nice vlogging camera and the quality is really good. And then my main camera is the one I'm filming on at the moment, which is the Canon EOS M50, and I use an 18mm to 22mm lens, which kind of gives that wide look, which I really like. I do have a lot of cameras, I know that, but they all do kind of have a different purpose, and I do use all of them. In terms of editing, I use Final Cut Pro, and I've used that the whole time that I've been editing. I actually got Final Cut Pro when I was 11. I saved up my pocket money for a year. It was a one-off payment of £200 and very, very, very expensive, especially at the time, like by far the most expensive thing I'd ever bought. But I loved it, and Probably it's the best purchase I ever made because I still use it multiple times a week. Like, it's more advanced than iMovie, but it's also really easy to use. I also honestly film a lot on my phone. I just vlog on my phone. Like, I'd say a third of my vlogging and filming is on my phone. And if you're wanting to start creating YouTube videos, you don't need anything elaborate. Like, you can just use your phone. There's a wonderful saying that if your first try is perfect, you waited too long. Like, don't think too much about it. You don't need loads of equipment. You just need an idea, you need authenticity, you need to want to give something valuable, you need to like have an idea of what you want to create, and then just create it, because so much of social media is trial and error. And actually me saying that, it makes it sound so like, I don't know, lifeless, soulless. It makes it feel goal-based. But all I'm trying to say is, like, at the beginning of my channel, it took ages to grow, but I kept posting every week and posted because I enjoyed it, because I liked making the videos and I liked connecting with the small community that I had. But I posted plenty of videos that I now look back on I'm very embarrassed by. I have my American Girl Kit Kittredge's school desk, so that's what it looks like on the inside. They weren't perfect, a lot of them were terrible quality. If you enjoy making it, that's the most important thing. Just create what you enjoy making. For editing, the other thing I use is a mini microphone. It's honestly as low tech as you can get, and I like it because it's very versatile, and I keep it in my handbag because it's very easy and transportable. So it's the Boya USB-C mini microphone, and you can connect this. I need the little adapter, it's really clever. So I got two of the microphones, which is good if you're doing like a mini interview or something on Instagram, but you just plug this in to the bottom of your phone, but you can also plug it in to your laptop or your computer, and then this is the microphone I would use for voiceovers. I just love how tiny and portable it is, and it's not that expensive as well. It's like £30. Then having tripods is valuable, so I've got two full standing ones which I would use to prop up in my bedroom if I was filming something, some mini tripods as well, and this little thing is the coolest, most convenient thing I use for creating YouTube content and social media content. It's like a tiny stand for your phone. You've got a mini tripod that folds up in your bag super easily. If you couldn't tell already, I'm all for very convenient small filming equipment which I can bring around with me without it feeling cumbersome. I have got so distracted. I need to actually do this whale, otherwise the bookmark will never be done, and Noah will never get to see my absolutely gorgeous painting skills. Poor Noah if she never receives this. I won't answer many more. How do you get over a fear of not being judged on social media? I feel like the answer to this isn't very optimistic. Bottom line is, you are going to get judged on social media. Like, if you post on social media, I think you will get judged. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Not everyone is ever going to like you. There are lots of people who will not understand you, and who will not agree with you, and who will just not like you. If you try and please everyone and you try and create content where you're not going to be judged, you are going to be judged anyway. But if you accept the fact that, like, some people aren't going to like it and some people aren't going to like the authentic you when you show up as yourself, I think accepting it is the only way to get over the fear of being judged. Here is my whale. I need to like find a quote or something, maybe from Moby Dick, and then decorate this, and then I can send it in my letter to Noah. Do you ever wish you were less introverted and more extroverted? That's a really good question. I'd be lying if I said there weren't times that I was out with a group of people and thinking, oh wow, I wish I wasn't this exhausted. Or kind of looking at someone and going, how are they not this exhausted? Especially when you know you've got like another hour or two at a social occasion and you're just kind of done, like you're ready to leave, and there are people around you who could stay and will stay and are happy to stay and want to stay. And in those cases I wish that I wasn't getting overwhelmed, because, as I said this time and time again, but misconception is that people who are introverted don't like socializing and don't like friends, which isn't true. However, by and all, with that main exception, I think I enjoy being an introvert, but it's hard to say because you never know the alternative. I enjoy spending time by myself. I like that I'm able to spend time by myself. And I don't kind of want to say this because I can't compare, and so I don't know if this is the case for extroverts. I don't know what it kind of is like to be an extrovert, but I like that I can spend time by myself, and I think being able to do that is a superpower for anyone who is watching who is introverted. And almost finding those things which are good about being introverted, like reminding yourself of those, I think is important, because there are so many ways that society tells us that introversion is bad. Like society is extroverted and extroversion is the ideal. And so kind of reminding yourself of the strength of being introverted, I think, is important. And reminding yourself that it's not a deficit. You still do like spending time with people and you still can have very meaningful connection. It's just two differences. I don't think one is better than the other, and I think the danger is that we grow to think of one as greater than the other one. How do you explain to people it's not them and you just need time to recharge? This is a really hard one. I tend to be really open from the beginning of a friendship and say I am introverted, and I will say that very openly, like, oh, I'm introverted. Are you introverted or extroverted? And it can feel quite clunky and not always the best, but and can be quite awkward. But in my experience, it's much better to say it sooner rather than later, because like it's much more difficult to say when you're actually depleted and you're actually ready to go and you're saying, oh, by the way, I'm an introvert and I have to leave now because my social battery is drained. I always worry that that's then going to come across as you've drained my social battery, and it makes it specific to them. Whereas if you talk to them about it outside of the actual experience of it happening, it becomes something more universal, which isn't dependent on them. That's how I think about it, at least. In my experience, it works quite well. It's really hard to say it when you're actually socially depleted, because it's also a social interaction in its own right. And what if someone's confrontational? What if somebody is offended? And then you've got a whole nother social dynamic to kind of navigate when you're depleted already, and you don't necessarily want that. So I think being open is the most important thing. A lot of the time, people will say, oh, me too. That's really nice that we now have that open conversation, and that if they're depleted they can also just say it, and kind of make sure. And I think it's nice to kind of say that as well to them and say, oh, if you get depleted, just let me know, because I know what it's like. I am introverted, and so yeah, I think being clunky and clear about it is usually the best way. This is a very random one. I like this though. It's very astute. It's actually a little bit confronting. Is there a reason you don't post YouTube to Instagram to promote it? It's actually a really good idea, honestly. I really should post to Instagram when I post a YouTube video, but I feel awkward about it. Like, I always feel weird posting like the video on Instagram, because even though I'm posting the content, like I'm posting for people to watch it, but I feel bad when I post it on Instagram. It feels like pushy, even though, oh, I don't know. It's not something in my head about this. I think it's fine. I actually appreciate it when creators that I follow on Instagram tell me that they've posted a new YouTube video. So maybe I might start doing it more after that comment, so thank you. How do you make time for YouTube? How did you manage it alongside your degree? I get a lot of questions about this, like especially when I was at university, like how do you manage the two alongside? And I mean YouTube, I found creating content on social media can be a lot of work. Like it really does take a lot of time, and that's not to say it's difficult work, it just can be very time consuming. It's as much work as you want to put into it as well. There are some weeks where I will spend 40-50 hours a week doing stuff related to social media, and which is kind of, I know it's a lot, it really is a lot. I think sometimes people don't realise how much time goes into creating videos and content and organising things. But then other weeks, if I had, you know, a key assessment due, or if I had loads of classes, I just wouldn't be posting, and I might spend a couple of hours. I think key thing if you're going to create content alongside your studies, which definitely is doable and is a great source of income when you're studying as well, key thing, I think, is allowing yourself to drop off the ball with it and not putting a crazy amount of pressure on yourself. You don't have to post every single week. Like, the algorithm likes it when you post every week, of course it does, but there are things that are more important. But your degree is, I don't want to say should be, because who am I to say should, but for me, the degree was always the most important thing. And so if YouTube had to give, it would give, and there were times that I wouldn't post for a little while, but by and all, like, I think so much of it was just routine. At Oxford, I would wake up at 5 a.m. and then I would do YouTube work for 4 hours until 9 a.m. every single morning, and that's when I do all of my editing, content planning, emails, like everything would be done from 5 till 9. It just meant that the rest of the day I could then spend studying without thinking about YouTube. So I think compartmentalizing is very useful, and being really strict about like what hours your YouTube hours, what hours are you using for social media, and what hours are you using for your other commitments. Like with everything, being really clear about what your priorities are is the most important thing. Like, choose your priorities, be very intentional about them, and then stick to them as best as you can. It feels wrong for me to be giving advice because every single person is going to create different content, and this is more my experience, but everyone's experience is going to be different, and it depends on the kind of content you make. I was obviously so lucky alongside my degree because the content I was making was study related, so especially if I'm having a really busy week, I would just prop up a camera and film myself studying and post that, whereas if you're like a gaming channel, you can't really do that easily alongside studying. So it really depends on the content, and I was definitely in a lucky position to be creating study content whilst I was studying. Stopped the studying from interfering too much with the content. I'm going to leave it there for questions though. I'm very tired. I just want to say thank you so much for watching this incredibly long video. If you watched it because you want to start a YouTube channel, please do, like, just post the first video. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, to go back to that saying, if it's perfect, you waited too long. And it doesn't matter if you're introverted. If you're introverted, you can create content online, and remember, like, it's different to socializing. Like, it's on your terms. If you get drained, you can just stop filming. Oh, this is terrible. I'm trying to do a lighthouse on the other side and it's absolutely abysmal. No, I'm really sorry if you're watching this. I hope you enjoyed, and that maybe there was something useful there. It was a lot of speculative advice as opposed to actual advice. But I think that's almost inevitable because the nature of social media is that, like, there isn't an expert on it. Trust me, I'm as surprised as you are that people watch my videos. It still baffles me. But yes, anyway, I do want to say thank you again so much to YouTube, both for just everything I've learned on YouTube and everything I gained through YouTube, and like just every wonderful thing that I found on this spectacular, I think the best of the social media platforms. But also thank you YouTube for sponsoring this video, which, as I say, is baffling, but I hope maybe you were able to take something from this video, and I hope that you have more than just a productive week.